Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you all for being here. This is our second to last class. Next Saturday will be our last class. So our Vedic Psychology summer fun will be over as of next Saturday. Today we're going to do our Suffix second. Then we're going to do Q&A. Then I'm going to review the main points from last week. I'm going to talk about Ahankara a little bit today. I haven't talked about it much in these classes, so it's something important. Then I'm going to talk about attunement antagonist. And then I'm going to talk about the group discussion about our homework, the homework I gave. So this is a lot to do. So what I would, and I don't know if we're going to get to it all, so what I'd encourage you to do is think very carefully about if you have a burning question that you just have to have answered, then ask it. But otherwise, for example, if it has to do with some of the homework, what we're doing in the homework, then maybe you can ask them when we get to that point, because there's some important things about Ahankara and this attunement that I think are important for you to know. And since it's our second to last class, I'm trying to cram a lot in, So just be careful when you think about what question you want to ask. And I'm probably not going to go into very long explanations either, so I can have time to get everything else done, especially because I know a lot of you probably did the homework. And you also want to talk about that, So it's a trade-off. So let's have our Suffix set second. Just for 1 second, let's get clear on why are you here? Why are you here? What brings you here on a Saturday night in India? What is your goal? It can be more specific than what I'm saying every week of why you're here, Maybe there's something really specific you want to get out of this time. So get it clear in your head. This is version 3.0 of the purpose of Vedic psychology. Each week I'm adding something. So now, before originally I said it was to learn about yourself. Last week I added and to change yourself, right? Now this week I'm adding one more part. Specifically, because you could change for the worse and think you're doing better, So what I'm saying is change yourself specifically by developing more compassionate empathy. Okay, so we're getting more specific each time. Why? So you can clear out anything that's blocking your mind from advancing spiritually. Compassionate empathy doesn't have to do just with being compassionate to another person. It starts with being compassionate to yourself. So that when you start being compassionate to yourself, meaning your inner child, all those parts of you that didn't get seen and didn't get nurtured, then you start clearing out some scars and anything that's blocking you. And then naturally you'll be compassionate to everybody else. Okay, so let's do question and answer. I know some people said they might have some questions. If you have something, please chime in, let me know, or if not, we can move on. Narota?
I have a question regarding empathy. So we know that there are 3 types of empathy, and when we come to the latest one, which is the highest of Suffix, it should be natural. So how can I practice this natural empathy while I may not feel an emotion towards the person? So if I start to rationalize, then it's no more the 3rd type of empathy.
Good question. So you're saying compassionate empathy should be natural, and then how can you practice it? So it should be natural if a few things, which I'm going to get into in the lecture, okay? So it's not natural because of some things I'm going to explain today. So then how can you practice it? We can't really practice it. You can start with just your awareness. Start with your awareness of what kind of empathy you have, and then if you want to advance with empathy, practice it on yourself to your inner child. And that takes probably you working with a therapist to help you actually feel something instead of just mechanically going through, compassionate empathy, and then you kind of are like a robot, So it's a very good question, but it's not an easy answer. I would say find like a trained professional who works with the inner child and can help you empathize. Okay? But this idea that it should be natural, try to strike that from the record, because I don't know anybody who really had a completely compassionate mother and who's just naturally compassionately, empathetic as an adult. Okay. Any other? Oh, I see Purushottam. Yes, Purushottam.
Yeah, the question seems like even the criminals, they love their children, so they also have some empathy. Isn't there is like there is no empathy in the two person? How could that be possible?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning part.
Even the criminals, they love their children or they love whatever they are, so they have some empathy towards them. So isn't there is like there is not a single person who exists without no empathy, with no empathy.
So you're saying even criminals love their children, and then you're saying, so how can a person exist without any empathy?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good question. So I didn't say that we have no empathy. I said we have low empathy, and most of us, if we do have empathy, even criminals, it's cognitive empathy, which means
Yes.
you can kind of put yourself in their shoes, and it's really only for the people that are related to your ahankara, meaning it's my child. So I have empathy for him, not really empathy, but I can kind of put myself in his shoes and buy him a gift to make him happy or something. I know he likes fire trucks. So it's the lowest kind of empathy, so,
Yes.
It's true though that criminals, especially sociopaths, have very high cognitive empathy. That's the problem. They don't have a heart, and so they know they're masterminds, and so they know exactly how to push your buttons and so I wouldn't say that we have no empathy or criminals have no empathy. It's just that they have too much of only one kind, this cognitive, and then they use that to manipulate because they don't have a heart. They don't feel bad if they hurt you. They feel happy, actually. They won,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Vilas, you're good? Okay. Let's move. So review of the main points. Here's our empathetic cat, right? Okay, so these are the review of a couple main points. So number one is the most qualified students are high in compassionate empathy. Remember, we talked about that last week? Someone who's high in compassionate empathy is highly attuned to their own feelings and the feelings of others. They can understand others, that's the cognitive piece, but they also can feel. They can feel, so they're sensitive to the feelings of the characters in the story. So when you're hearing Bhagavatam, for example, you're feeling the mood, you're sensitive to those feelings. And then they also are the same sensitive to the people they're in relation with. So if you're living in a community like here, you're going to be very sensitive to the people you're in relation with, not just the guru, everybody. Yet at the same time, right, that we're supposed to be high in compassion and empathy. We're in this major empathy epidemic. Remember this concept, this anosognosia, right? I'm bringing this slide again because it's very important. It's this lack of insight, It's a symptom of severe mental illness, and I'm not saying anybody here has that. You can have severe mental illness like Alzheimer's disease, for example. So you can't see, you can't see that you actually have Alzheimer's disease. So it could be like that. But it also could be that you can't see that you have low empathy or that you're hurting people, sometimes even people that you love. So it impairs your ability to understand and perceive your own illness. In some cases, people with this condition will rationalize what's happening to them. Thank you to our ahankara. That's the feature and quality, great quality of ahankara. We rationalize whatever we're doing, so we don't feel bad about it. We think it's right. And they also might cover up their symptoms. So that they might rationalize, but covering up symptoms could be, in other words, you might have some idea that something you're doing is a little wrong, but then you kind of rationalize. So you may have some insight into something that you're doing is off, but you don't want to change. So you say, well, so-and-so, I asked so-and-so, and he said it was okay. It's like, okay, So you kind of do whatever you can to basically not change. That's the quality of ahankara. It helps you keep doing what you're doing and feel good about it. Even, what's his name, Jeffrey Dahmer, the guy who was like killing people and eating them, he even had a good reason. If you watch the videos, you can go on YouTube and watch videos of like serial killers, and they have very good reasons why they do what they do. And they have no remorse, no empathy, so they're very high, no like feeling, affective empathy. So they're very high in the cognitive empathy. They're a mastermind on what exactly to say to that woman to get her into his house, or man, to kill him and eat him, So everybody's ahankara rationalizes whatever it is that they're doing, and they think that they're right. And that's why being a therapist sometimes is so hard, because I can see the ahankara, and I try to help the person see it themselves. And if they can't see it themselves, then I spend a long time, years in therapy, just kind of supporting them and helping them maybe see certain things. But then every now and then, when they're like, I don't understand why this person doesn't like me. What did I do? And then they ask me to tell them, and I tell them, then they get upset. And then all of a sudden, they turn their ahankara and all their samskaras turn on to me. I'm the bad guy, even though you've hired me to help you see the truth, what's really going on with you. So it's very hard. You have to establish a therapeutic bond first. And even when you've got that, the ahankara can get flip really fast and turn it all onto the person who's trying to help, you heal. So the ahankara is kind of like enemy number one, I would say, our own ahankara. And so this is what is a problem here. The ahankara is covering up your ability to see yourself, and that's why you're unempathetic, because you can't see yourself, you can't see how you affect other people, and that's why you're hurtful to other people. And that's why you don't take responsibility for why you're hurtful, because you don't think you did anything wrong. So even though we're in this empathy epidemic, still many people think they're empathetic and they're highly attuned to others' feelings. Well, how can this be? Now we're going to get into the ahankara antics, okay? So here's some qualities of ahankara. This is, you see this picture? Antics, like Daoji? What's antics?
Like anti and pro.
No, like the escapades, like the...
Foolish, outrageous.
Yeah. Foolish, outrageous behavior.
Or amusing behavior.
Yeah. How we see ourselves is not really how we are. Ahankara blocks our ability to see our flaws. See how proud that skunk is? Do you guys know what a skunk is? It sprays a very bad smell. It's called a skunk in the US. And it sprays a very bad, but look at his face. He's like, yes, I'm so great, but he's just killed the plant behind his butt. Look what he, okay, so this is how it looks to me, a trained Vedic psychologist, when I see people who have no idea actually how you're affecting other people. And you're saying, I'm so great, and this person is this, and that person's that, and you're spraying stuff on everybody around you, and you have no idea. And then I try to ask you a question to introspect and look at it, and you still are like, no, he's like that, and she's like that. It's like, okay. But this is how it looks when you're not the person, when you're standing outside and you're seeing it. Everybody looks like this, unless you're some enlightened being beyond all of that. So here it is again. You see how the skunk is like, oh, it's him, he made me do it. We think we're empathetic, we think we're caring, kind, smart, humble, introspective, self-aware, and devoted. And it's those other people who have the problem. But really, we're the one with the problem. So this, is very, not for the faint of heart. This is really hard to hear, and I know that I'm bringing the sledgehammer. And this is the second to last class, okay? And you have a whole 6 months until I teach again to introspect on this. So part of it is I'm purposely really kind of bringing it home, because I'm only going to meet one more time and share what I've learned through Babaji in a compressed amount of time. I'm trying to share it with you in a way that can be helpful if you're sincere and you truly want to use it to introspect. Okay, so please forgive me if it's too harsh. I'm not that good at sugarcoating things. We stink, but unless we become humble enough to admit that, we cannot truly change our heart to have compassion and empathy. Remember, I was saying one of the original talks I gave that we stink, right? But we don't think we stink. So I'm coming back to that again. We have to see that it's ahankara that's blocking ourselves and making us that skunk going around and spraying everybody, Here it is again. We can continue on at best with either cognitive empathy or affective empathy. In other words, you could be really in your heart and really in your emotions, but over the top. It's not really about the other person. It's like you're overly emotional. Some of us had mothers like that. You're so emotional that you can't really see the other person. You're like crying for them, or you feel too much for them in a way, but it's really actually about you. You're not grounded in yourself. So to be grounded in yourself, you have to be stable, you have to be sattvic, you have to be peaceful, and you can put yourself in their shoes, and at the same time you can feel for them, and with them, in communion with them, and then you act from a stable and grounded place. Not an overly emotional place where you're pressing and forcing them to do something, you're being aggressive, or you're being too emotional that you need them to almost pacify you. That's not empathy. Okay, so you're not really attuned to the other person's heart. So look at the picture. The skunk is like spraying, and the lady's like, oh God, and he doesn't get that he's upsetting her, so he's like, calm down. He's trying to like hug her. And he stinks, and it's like, no. Okay? So the bitter truth, just in case I haven't already dropped a few bombs, the bitter truth is that to the extent that our mother did not attune to us as a child is to the extent that we cannot attune to others in our adult life. So this is going back, Narottam, to your question, It's not, how is it that we could have compassion and empathy? Unless you had this, Mother Teresa, maybe not even Mother Teresa, but some mother who like probably had gone to school for this, because I don't know how she would know how to be like that otherwise. It's like a lost art in a way. Probably Babaji's mother was like this, but besides that, but now here's the crazy part. When I tell people, please research, look at what a attuned mother would be, look at what a toxic or abusive mother would be, everybody tries to convince me that their mother was great. So that's the other problem. Our ahankara doesn't want to believe that our mother was abusive or was not attuned to us. They don't want to believe that. Why? Because we needed her for our existence. And it hurts our ahankara to be like, no, my mom wasn't good. She wasn't good to me. She wasn't attuned to me. Or maybe she didn't even love me. That is so painful. So that's what I spend many hours every week in therapy with my clients, trying to help them see. I'm not saying your mother did it purposely. That's a rare case. But for whatever reason, your mother hadn't figured it all out. Maybe she was a young mom. Maybe she was abused herself. Maybe she had a mental problem. It's fine, whatever it was, but you got to admit that before you can learn how to attune to yourself. You have to see where you were hurt, because my favorite line is, it's all in the past. Why does it matter anyway? It's all in the past? What do you even mean? It's a samskara inside of you that is alive and well and driving your hurtful behavior right now. You're hurting yourself every day. You're making decisions every day to hurt yourself and others until you pull up that samskara and work with somebody to remove that. So it's all in the past doesn't really relate to Vedic psychology. Babaji says time doesn't heal all wounds. It doesn't. What does time do? It helps you think of more tamasic ways to avoid your pain. In a nutshell, that's what tamas does. So we have to really understand that our samskaras are lying inside of us from how our mom did not attune to us, and they are causing a lot of pain to ourselves and to others. And there's no there's no easy way out. You have to go in, you have to look at those samskaras, you have to learn how to nurture your inner child to get out of it. So if you, people, ask about, but can I just do, kirtan and japa? You can. I mean, I'm not a guru, I can't speak to that, That's a question for Babaji. But what I've seen in the 9 years or so that I've been doing this is that's very helpful. That helps you attune to yourself more. That helps you clear stuff more. You can be a lot quicker with getting through, but you still have to look at the samskara. You still have to nurture your inner child. Otherwise, you're projecting all that onto other people. You're seeing people through your samskaras, and you're wanting them to kind of nurture your inner child. That's the punchline. To the extent you don't nurture your inner child, you are putting that on somebody else to do for you. That's the talk I just gave in the podcast, about, it's kind of vulgar, but peeing your pants, So anytime that you are not nurturing your own self and taking care of your own physical needs, then you're probably living in a maybe a mental institution, or you're have Alzheimer's, or you're very old, and you need somebody to take care of your physical needs, right? Otherwise, we go to the bathroom on our own. That's a pretty basic thing. Right? But with our emotions, we don't do it. With our emotions, we're almost like vomiting on people or peeing on ourselves all day long, So that is how it looks, again, like the skunk spraying and us peeing ourselves. That's from a therapist point of view, that's how I see it, and then you come in and you want to complain about everybody else. Can you believe what she did or he did? But it's like, yeah, but you peed yourself and you smell, And so, I would never say that to a client, because that's not helpful, and that's not going to help them process, but I'm saying it to all of us. I also look that way. I also have my own things that I'm working through, and I know that I have the same problems, So I don't think I'm not trying to say that I didn't pee myself and I don't smell either. It's something we all have to work on. We all have to work on seeing ourselves more clearly in the ways that we're, still stuck. Okay? So that's why my punchline in red is it's very, very rare to meet someone who actually has compassion and empathy. It's very rare.
We're lucky we met one.
Babaji, thank you. The root of compassionate empathy, okay, is the attuned mother. She pays close attention to the child's emotions. She's stable emotionally, so she naturally holds space for the child's emotions. She responds by validating and mirroring with these matching like feelings and words and actions to comfort the child. She looks at, she has a look of care and concern in response to her pain, like in this picture. She does what's necessary to keep the child emotionally and physically safe, especially from the father. If the father's angry or if the father's unavailable or something like that. Some people are like, my father was great, Okay, then that doesn't mean that she's not keeping you emotionally safe from her own emotions. Some people, everybody has a different story, but if you had a father who was great, it doesn't mean that your mother was compassionate, because a lot of mothers are very emotional themselves, so they can't be compassionate to you. Or some mothers are completely shut down. They're not mirroring back. Like, remember that video I showed last week, of the mother who was, when she practiced in the experiment, the still face experiment of being unattuned and how much that baby freaked out. So if we ever had that experience as a kid, that's still in us. That's still a samskara, So if somebody doesn't attune to you, it feels that painful. But we've learned how to mask it or cover it, or we blast out in anger, or we feel depressed. But we don't realize that's actually the root of it. It's this unattuned mother. So the root cause of low empathy is the unattuned mother. She makes the child disconnect from her own feelings. Like, there's nothing wrong with our feelings, Everybody has feelings, and some of them are really good, some of them are really, heavy, really negative. Whatever feelings we have are perfectly fine. They're especially for a child, whatever is coming up, we should attune to, and make them feel like, okay, we might not want them to act on that feeling, by hitting their head against the wall or hurting another child, but the feeling is actually okay. And what mothers tend to do unattuned mothers tend to do is to make you feel bad for your feelings, to make you feel ashamed. You shouldn't have that feeling. Or they don't even acknowledge it, Or they try to make it all better, without saying it, or they tell you what's wrong with it, So there's always something, wrong. So it's a very rare mother who can actually hold the space for the child with their feelings. And then some mothers who I'm kind of working with in therapy and teaching, then they go too far the other way. They completely validate everything with the child's feelings to the point that that there's no boundaries. So that's also a problem. So it's an art to learn actually how to empathize with the child, but actually still be the parent. And still, you hear their feelings. So that's why this nurturing the inner child is the first step. You have to learn how to do it with yourself first. Then you can learn how to do it with a child or with another human being, So what happens is when the mother doesn't attune to the child ends up not having a sense of self. Like, my feelings are bad. There's something wrong with my feelings. I shouldn't have these feelings. So what does the child do? The child starts focusing on other people's feelings, on the mother's feelings, on the father's feelings, on the dog's feelings. It doesn't matter who, but not themselves. They feel ashamed about that, about actually having feelings. So they develop a deep sense of insecurity about themselves. They feel there's something desperately wrong with me, So this lasting and all-pervasive effect of the unattuned mother. Look at the skunk. Spraying and brushing its mane, even though it probably totally stinks, it thinks it smells good probably, right? The lasting and all-pervasive effect of the unattuned mother is jealousy. Why? Jealousy is the #1 attunement antagonist. Why? If we feel insecure about ourselves, right, that becomes because of mother, then we will hate others who are secure in themselves, especially those who are attuned to their own heart and they're able to connect to others' hearts. Because we can't do it. So when we see someone who's doing that, we can't stand it. We want that. We've wanted that since birth. So instead of attuning to others' feelings, our ahankara makes us attune to either a glorified version of ourselves or a negative version of ourselves. So either way, it distorts our view. Ahankara blocks and distorts our view. It causes us to think that we're either greater or more important than other people, and more important than we actually are, or less important. It depends on how, we can't just say mother. I mean, this is a very complicated situation too, because father's involved, teachers are involved, there's other adults involved. So I'm just using mother now because that's what we're focusing on, but this takes a while to unpack it for each person specifically, what your special combination of samskaras are. But anyway, our view is distorted because of ahankara. of ourselves and of others. And so what happens is we act upon this false information. Ahankara is giving us false information about ourselves, and then we act on it. So how do we do that? This jealousy makes us, I've already said this in a few other lectures, right? It can control and criticize, compete, exclude. We say no, and we should say yes, because it's all about, I can't stand that person. They're in their heart, and it feels so wrong to me. Why? Because my mother wasn't in her heart, so she didn't help me be in my heart, so now I can't stand anybody in their heart. To make matters worse, since we don't have a clear sense of ourselves, we are attracted to people who make us feel the way our mother did, unimportant and insignificant. But at the same time, we get fooled by people who love bomb us. Do you guys know this term? Love bomb? Love bombing is when somebody's like over the top praising you, over the top nice to you, showering you with like love, praise and love and all that. So we get fooled by those people. Because we actually don't know what love really is. I'm not even talking spiritually, okay? I'm just talking about a mother's love. We don't even know what that is. So it felt so bad not to be attuned to by our mom that we don't know what a proper attunement is. Haven't experienced it. We don't have a samskara that matches for that. So when somebody love bombs us, we're like, oh, this must be it. A lot of times I'll tell my client, like, when you go to like a cheap restaurant, they'll have like a fake plastic rose. We're like, oh, this is it. At least in the US, they have a lot of like fake plastic roses at cheap restaurants. And it might look real. So you're like, no, it doesn't, but it could fool you. So that's what love bombing is. You get fooled by people who overdo it they're too nice and too complimentary to you. It's because we're so hungry for praise and attunement way back from our first few months of life that we get fooled. We can't see beyond the fake words. We can't see beyond that. And then, when there's actually a person who's kind to you, we push them away. When somebody expresses compassion and empathy to you, it does not match with any of your samskaras of what love is. So that person, you're like, ooh, they're smothering me. I mean, I work with a lot of clients who are single and dating. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you can't don't even go on a date until we discuss this, because they'll continue to pick somebody who is, not good for them. Because it's matching with their samskara of an unloving parent, And then the people who are nice, the people who don't love bomb them, but who are stable and steady, who show up on time, who are loyal, who, are truthful, but in a kind way, all that stuff. They don't like those people. They're like, ooh, that is boring. That is boring. I need some spark to my life. And I'm like, you mean drama? Somebody who's going to treat you like crap? Yeah, I know you need that spark. The nice person who's just steady for you and regular, that feels so uncomfortable. And that's a sign you can tell that you had an unattuned mother, Or the person who's nice to you, like you get close, and then when it gets too close, kick them away. You do something to push them away, right? That's another tendency. So if any of you are interested in learning more about this, it's called attachment styles. You can do like a YouTube search and you can type in attachment styles in romantic relationships. You can type in attachment styles in general and see, but this is where that comes from. And that comes in the first few months of your life, and it gets burned into your psyche. And you act on those first few months of life for the rest of your life. That's how you choose who you're friends with. That's how you choose, how to operate in relationships, who your romantic partner is. All of that is coming from how you did or did not attach to your mother. And most people have what's called an insecure attachment. And depending on the different person who's posting the theory, there's 3 or 4 different types of insecure attachment. And there's only one type of secure attachment, which comes from a mother who has compassion and empathy. So most of us are struggling with some sort of insecure attachment. One type is called anxious attachment, where you just, they didn't respond back to my texts, they don't love me. They looked at someone else, or they didn't look at me, they don't love me, whatever the thing is. So it's very insecure and anxious attachment. No matter what they do, no matter how nice they are to you, you don't believe it, But then there's another type called avoidant, where when somebody comes close, you push them away, So all this stuff is going on. And then there's one called insecure avoidant, where you do both, You're anxious, and so the person's like, they try to come close, but then you push them away, So there's lots of, if you can understand attachment styles and study that for a while, that will help you greatly, I think, in your life to get out of your insecure attachment style if you think you might have one. If you don't think you have one, I would suggest at least making 1 or 2 sessions with a therapist to get a professional's opinion. Because to judge yourself, guess what you're using? Your ahankara. So it's probably not right. You're going to have to trust the person to tell you, you know, you're going to have to spend some time and tell your story to the therapist, and then you have to tell as much as you can possibly see, and you have to answer them honestly, you know, and be sincere that you really want to know, and then they can help you see that. Okay, so I was saying we push people away who are kind and who are expressing compassion, empathy, because it feels so foreign to us and does not match how our mother treated us. We just can't believe that somebody's actually nice to us. It just doesn't match. We mistake fake for real and real for fake. So fake love, we're like, yes, this is it, this is it. Finally, I found the one, you know? No. And then when the real love comes, we're like, oh no, that's so uncomfortable. They're smothering me. They're smothering me. That's my favorite. They're smothering me. Smothering? Okay. Usually if you love somebody and they love you, it can't be smothering. Why? Because you're attuned to each other. If you need space, you give space. If you need to come close, you come close. You're doing this attunement all the time. But if mother didn't do it with you, you're just kind of groping in the dark. So we actually feel more comfortable with people who cannot attune to our hearts, and we call it love. Developing a sense of self. So that's where, look at how tiny this baby is. This is when some scars get made. You know, look at how helpless that baby is, and completely vulnerable and depending on the mother. So there's a lot of research on infant development. That's what I studied in my undergraduate, you know, early childhood development. And so what it says is that infants, because they don't understand words like we know, you know, they can't like have a conversation with us at the beginning. The mother has to be highly attuned to their cry. They have all different types of cries, right? To their, if they're uncomfortable physically, you have to pay very close attention to that. And the mother needs to be emotionally responsive, you know? When I got trained, remember I told you guys that I worked at a childhood development like experimental lab on the professor's kids? They told us, don't treat the kids, these babies, because we each got assigned to 2 kids, and I had 2 9-month-olds, 1 boy and 1 girl, who I had to practice all these attunement skills with, right? And they told me, don't treat the kids like a sack of potatoes. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, okay, like the little boy, his name was Ethan, like if Ethan needed his diaper changed, you can't just pick him up and be like, okay, and throw him down the table. You have to be like this. You have to be like, oh, Ethan, it looks like you're uncomfortable in your diaper. Okay, can we go lay you down? You have to like talk to him and attune to him, come down to his level. And you also just can't pick him up. You go right down and go, Ethan, can I pick you up? We're gonna go change your diaper now, okay? And then while you're changing the diaper, you have to talk to him. This is gonna be a little cold, just 1 minute. Oh, I know, I see you're cold. So you're constantly dialoguing with him, you know? I see you don't like that. And then maybe, oh, you pick him up again. Okay, it's okay. So this is the attuned mother. You know, and that was the training. I have some scars for that. I got trained when I was still, like I said, a teenager. I was a freshman, you know, I was just beginning college. But that training was based on the research of attunement, of mother attunement to child, you know. And so it's very interactive. It's very, you know, you're almost like one unit moving how they move, you know. So attunement, what does that help the child do? It helps them to grow and develop a sense of self. So the attunement dance. The attunement dance starts with mother and infant. And the reason why I'm calling it that, I know maybe some of you are thinking, oh, Ras Leela, but it's not that. What it is there's actually research done, believe it or not. There's something called dance therapy. You can look it up. And there's research done on how you can be a better dance partner and like real, you know, dance like this by learning how a mother, compassionate mother, and attunes to the baby. Isn't that interesting? So they've done research on very specifically what an attuned mother does to attune to the baby. And they have now taught like professional dancers, here's what you need to do. Here's why you're throwing her up in the air and then dropping her, or whatever they're doing that's not attuned. And they're basing it on the mother's attunement to the baby. So that's why I'm calling it the attunement dance, because it's a real thing. So it starts with the mother and the infant. But as adults, the attunement dance is when people mirror and validate each other's feelings. Attunement is a blissful experience when you know each other's heart's desires and you act in ways to please the other. And I'll just make a little asterisk here. But you're not expecting anything in return. Okay? Because there's something called codependency, and there's other problems that we have where you act in a way to meet the person's heart's desire, but you expect them to be like, oh my God, thank you so much. That was so great, so helpful, you're so wonderful, or you're so smart, or you're so lovely, or whatever. So the attunement dance is not about that. There's no discussion about it, there's no feedback, there's no praise. It's really just, you can tell what they want, and you do something to help them, and then they can tell what you want, and they do something to help you. Maybe it's not even help, to please you, So you're doing this dance, and that's the whole idea of what the mother's doing for the baby. That's how she teaches the baby attunement. And then the baby does it the rest of the baby's life. But if the mother doesn't do it well, then the baby learns these dysfunctional ways kind of to attune, because it's not really attuning, right? Then the baby learns, babies are very smart actually. They learn ways to get their needs met, and everybody's needs at the core is love. So that's what happens, is the baby learns how to get love in a very, in a way that will hurt them ultimately and others. But they're all trying to do it. That's at the core. That's how I have compassion for my clients, because I try to unpack, what are you doing and how did you get to this place to think that that's how you get love, So then we go all the way back and figure out, oh my God, no wonder you're operating like that, because of what your mom did or didn't do, and also what your dad did or didn't do. It always makes sense when you get to the root. So attunement drives one to naturally do things to make others feel happy, comfortable, celebrated, and supported. And being attuned is a built-in also brake system. So if you're attuned to someone else's feelings, you won't do something to hurt them. You can feel for them, and they can feel for you. It's not possible. It's not possible to do that. And attunement impels one to change oneself quickly. Because imagine you're doing this beautiful attunement dance, and all of a sudden you realize, woo, like something came up that's blocking you from feeling attuned. In other words, you start doubting them. You start feeling unloved by them or something. Whoa, that is breaking the attunement. So very quickly, what is in me? Instead of what's wrong with you, you don't love me. Instead, what's in me that's making me feel that you don't love me? I gotta get that thing out very quickly so I can go back to that attunement. Okay? So the punchline. How does developing more compassion and empathy help a person advance spiritually? So compassion and empathy requires attunement to your own feelings first, right? Then if you're attuned to your own feelings, that means you are aware of your own jealousy. We all just heard Babaji say, I think 1 or 2 days ago, right? That jealousy is the all-pervasive, everybody has it. So if you're sitting here thinking you don't have it, that means you have a problem. I'm sorry to say it so bluntly, we all have it. And you have to, if you can't see that, that means that you haven't even begun this journey with Vedic psychology. You have to see where your jealousy is. If you are aware of your own jealousy, then if you know you have a problem, then you take responsibility for it. Like the skunk doesn't think he has a problem. He's just spraying everybody, even going and hugging them while he's spraying them. So he doesn't think he has a problem. So that's why he's not going to change. But if you realize, I am jealous, even if you can find one certain person, one certain instance, good, that's a start. Find something that's making you feel jealous, and then you take responsibility for it, and then you actively figure out how to get out of it. You have to actively figure out how. It has to be like burning you, more than the jealousy is burning you. You have to really figure out, how can I get out of this thing? And if you're out of it, then you're able to see everyone around you and their human struggle. You're not creating a struggle for them. You're actually having compassion. You're going, oh my God, everybody's struggling. Everybody's got issues, I feel bad for them. That's why they're behaving that way, Because if you're in your jealousy and if you're in your ahankara, it's all about you. It's all about you becoming best. You competing with everybody else to be number one, And so that's, you can't see everybody in their human struggle if you're doing that. You only can see yourself. So then you make efforts to help and uplift those people around you. If you think about it, there's very few people who've had a time with Babaji, and his group of people is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he has less and less time, right? He's getting busier, and there's more and more people. So for the people who have had that precious time with him, we have to actually help to uplift everybody else. We can't be fighting with each other, and putting each other down. We have to actually come together and help uplift everybody else and share that knowledge that he's given us. So the ultimate attunement is that you would love, support, and celebrate all those people that your beloved loves. Your hearts are in sync and you don't question or doubt. Okay, so now there's some time for this group discussion. And I just want to remind you that the class is being recorded, so don't share anything personal. Other people are going to watch this who aren't here today, okay? So we're going to analyze a little bit more of the story from your homework. Your homework was to practice your empathy skills, right? Cognitive, affective, and compassionate empathy. And we had left with this, remember, as the homework? There's two parts to the story, right? One part was I was so engrossed in the fight that I didn't even notice my father had pulled the car over onto the side of the interstate until the back door swung open and he began yelling at me. "Jesse, get out," he demanded. Okay. So let's flex those empathy muscles, people. Cognitive empathy. What would you be thinking if you were in my situation? And your father's saying, "Get out." He swings the door open. Remember, I'm in Iowa. We're in Iowa. We're in the middle of nowhere, more than 1,000 miles from my home. Yes, Narottam. What would you be thinking?
I would think that he's angry and that he wants to punish me, probably even leave me on the road.
Yeah. Good. Very good. Anything else? Anybody else? What would you be thinking? Vilas, can you let me know if anybody on Zoom wants to share something?
Susan Sophie.
Okay, thank you. Susan Sophie, what would you be thinking if you were in my situation?
I'm thinking father's very angry on me, but he don't see how much I'm hankering for his love, because my sister has the full intention from him.
Okay, very good. So you'd be thinking that he doesn't see how much I'm hankering for his love because my sister has all of his attention.
Yes.
Good, okay. Anyone else want to add to what Narottam has said, or Susan Sophie? Yes, Rati? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kamala, you go ahead.
Is that on? Yep. You might be thinking, she's won again.
She's won again.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, competing with my sister. She's won again. That's a good one. Maybe some curse words too. That.
I will think now I'm really lost.
Oh, now I'm really lost. Yeah, because my dad doesn't, he's just telling me to get off on the side of the road. Yeah.
I'm lost now.
Yeah.
It's finished.
Very good. Very good. Anyone else? What would I be thinking? Vilas?
I think vulnerable.
Huh? Badra?
Vulnerable.
Oh, sorry. Vulnerable.
Yeah.
That would be feeling. Yeah, effective. Let's move to that. Oh, you want to say something thinking first?
Yeah, maybe that no one understands me, like
Yes.
they don't understand me.
Yes. Yeah, very alone, right? Nobody understands me. The feeling would be so alone, so isolated, vulnerable, right? But nobody understands me, you know? Very good. Okay, so let's move, unless there's anyone else for what I'd be thinking, let's move to feeling. Vilas? Vulnerable? Yes, very vulnerable. Susan Sophie? What would I be feeling?
I'm feeling frustration, unseen, unloved, rejected, neglected, and grief.
Yeah, that's a lot of heavy feelings. Good job.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Anyone else?
Lot of fear,
Fear. Yeah, that's so scary, right?
scary, and like, oh, what will be the next?
I mean, when you're a little girl and you're on a road trip with your family, you're with your family, no matter how bad you are, right? That's the whole idea of empathy. Compassionate empathy is no matter how bad you are, I'm with you. No matter what you say, I'm with you, you know? I don't allow the bad behavior. I wouldn't say keep pulling your sister's hair, but I would say I see why you're pulling her hair. You're very angry at her. You're very upset with her. You don't ever kick the person out for having strong feelings, right? So that's very scary. Very scary. That sends a very deep message to a child to be kicked out, you know?
Maybe lonely, resentment, and fear.
Yeah. Yes. Did you say lonely? Yeah. Yeah. Lonely, resentment at my father or sister or both? Or?
Yeah, or everyone actually.
Everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, can be resentment on the father
Yeah.
that you don't understand, or to the sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fear because maybe I will be punished or something.
Yeah. Well, he told me to get out of the car. Yeah, and maybe he'd even do something worse. You know? Let's see.
Yeah, I was thinking in two, which is actually also cognitive and affective in the same, which is this injustice feelings. Like this is not just. It's like yeah, like in just because you are expressing something
Yeah.
and then someone is like correcting you or shouting at
Yeah.
you or something. And why? You feel you are right what you
Yeah.
are doing, so it's unjust. Yeah.
Yeah, unjust and unfair. Why isn't he yelling
Unfair,
at her?
unfair,
Why is he
yeah.
not yelling at her?
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be yelling at her too?
Exactly. Only me.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
about her?
it's so unfair. Very good. Anything else before I move to compassionate empathy? So compassionate empathy, remember, is what you put yourself in my shoes, then you feel for me, and now in communion you want to do something to help me. What would you do? Compassionate empathy. If you were the loving, nurturing mother, the attuned, compassionate mother, what would you do? Daoji, can you be the loving mother? Can you be the compassionate mother? Or is that out of your wheelhouse? It's bedtime, I know. It's bedtime.
My father would never do that, but if he did it, I'd say, do, you know.
Okay, Mike, put the mic. So you're the compassionate, loving mother. So what would you say to the father? Well, if he says, Jesse, get out, what would
What do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
You know, you can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't just leave her in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
She's a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
You know. I want. You cannot do this. you
Yeah,
know.
very good. Very good. That would make me feel safe, and protected. Very good. And even if the mother, when you think of a compassionate mother, you think of someone who's kind of soft, right? Soft and flexible, and they're with you. But when something comes between them and their child, party's over, and they act like that. You cannot do that. Their voice raises, they stand up for that little child. So you got it. Good, Daoji. Does anybody else want to take a shot at it? What would you do? Compassionate mother, compassionate empathy. Would you add anything to what Daoji said? Or would you modify it in some way? Jaya, 1 minute. Susan, Sophie, just 1 sec. Let's give Jaya a chance. The compassionate mother.
Yeah, when I heard that story, even last week, I was very touched, and I could not answer the first one because you said, what would you think?
Yeah.
And I could just not think. I was
Aw.
trying to think.
Oh.
And I would just, I would only, yes.
Like drinking from a
Okay. The only thing I was thinking, I would just tell my husband, stop the car, and I would take the child, I would go out with you and be alone, and I would just be with you and hold the child, and I don't know, because it depends on you how I would be. If the person starts crying, maybe I would also cry.
Yeah.
If you start talking, then I would listen. But I would not care about my husband at that time.
Yes.
I would not.
Exactly, Jaya. That's beautiful.
I would just not.
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's very beautiful. So you're tuning to the child, it's not about the
Yes.
husband, right? Because a lot
Yeah,
of women
exactly.
are afraid actually of the husband. They're afraid, right? Like I actually told my mother, I reminded my mother of this story, like just a few years ago when I was processing and when I was writing this blog. And she's like, what? I'm like, you don't remember that? And this happens a lot of times with my clients in therapy too. I said, Mom, you let Dad leave me on the side of the road. Oh, I did? And so then I had to tell her, let me read you a little bit of my blog. So I read to her, and I said, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I just want to know what I went through and how it still affects me today, And she started crying. And she said what you said.
Yes.
She said, I should have gotten out of the car and I should have told Dad, I don't care, but I'm staying with her. She goes, I would have stayed on the side of the road with you. And she was really crying. And that was very healing for me. It's very rare, oftentimes in therapy, that you'd get the parent to actually have that conversation with you. So I was lucky, but you hit the nail right in the head. That's the compassionate empathy. She put her things aside, and she just said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that." And she said, "I didn't know what I was doing." She's like, "I was young, I had 4 kids, and it's really bad that I did that to you." And so that was so healing to know that she actually had some compassion, Yeah. So thank you, Jaya. That's really sweet. Anyone else want to add something, Vilas? Okay, Purushottam, the loving mother.
I would give her a hug, first thing.
Yeah, give her a hug, right?
First thing.
Yeah.
Emergency
Yeah.
LTC.
I said to my mom, why didn't you tell Dad to get out of the car? I would say, you're telling her to get out, you get out. And then I would get in the car with my 4 daughters and drive off and leave him on the side of the road. And she's like, whoa. And it's a different generation, Mom. Yeah. Sorry, Purushottam? Were you going to say
I have
something?
similar things, but I have little change here. I would give my daughter a little signal there. I will still go with my husband in the car, and during that time, I'll try to pacify him, have his anger come down. Then we'll come back, return to the spot again, and pick up the daughter. This way, heal everything.
Okay, so who are you attuned to then? Yourself?
I'm sorry, what?
Who are you attuned to then? Yourself or the daughter? Because this is about a nurturing
Not the
mother.
daughter.
This is about a nurturing mother being attuned to the daughter. So
Yeah, you attune to the daughter, but you give her a signal that, okay, I'll pacify the husband, your dad, and we'll return. Just give her a signal, let him, get his anger, calm down, then we'll return to the spot and pick her up.
okay, and how do you think that would affect the daughter? The 12-year-old on the side of the road.
So she felt that she is confident that her mother will return and mother returns, so she feels comfortable.
Okay, let's take a group feedback on this one. Dowji says thumbs down. Let's give Dowji the mic. Kamala says thumbs down. Anyone else? Uh-oh, you got 3 thumbs down in the group here. Let's hear why. Let's hear why.
This is my idea. I'm present.
No. It's good. It's good you're saying it because Purushottam, what you're saying, a lot of people would probably do. So don't feel bad. You're doing great, but I want to make it a discussion so we can all understand more why people are saying thumbs down. Because I bet a lot of people are saying thumbs up. They may not be raising their hand, but I bet a lot of people are agreeing with you too. So thumbs down. Respectfully debate with Purushottam. I want to hear why you think that this would not be good for the 12-year-old. Because he said he's going to go calm the father down, leave the daughter, but he said the daughter trusts the mother. So just, 12 years old on the side of the road, but, the daughter should know the mother will be back, right? And then calm the father down, and then come back, and then the father's not angry, and then, right, Purushottam, and then they can kind of all make peace. Because the father's calm. Yes, okay. So what's wrong with that? Kanta?
No, actually, I consider it because, this is something that the mother and the father should be one. There is unit. So if the mother will go for the child or the father, so they will see from one side the protection, from the other side is enemy, or not enemy, but this will not be a unit. So I think this can be good first to talk with the father.
Okay.
And then.
But remember, the deal is he's saying in how the situation would be. In order to talk with the father, she has to go with the father. So you think that's okay?
Yeah, well, maybe not to put out daughters from the car, but maybe go out with the father just to hug and calm down, and then come back and solve in a peace with something.
Okay. Kamala's shaking her head no, so you tell Kanta why not. See, Purushottam, you've got a good conversation going here.
So then what is going on is that the girl is 12 years old, abandoned, and she will feel like completely lost. And how can repair that feeling after that? Because she will think that the mother is also behaving, she's also, how you say?
Justify the father's.
Choosing the father
not standing for her,
right.
And going away, and then immediately she will say, all my family, the whole unit of the family is going in that direction, leaving me here.
But Kanta's saying she wouldn't leave, maybe they'd just be on the side of the road. Purushottam was saying, go off and drive off, but then Kanta's saying, no, maybe she would just take him on the side of the road, have the discussion, and the girl would be there too. Would that be okay? Is that what you're proposing, Kanta? Or?
To maybe not bring them out, but let them in the car, so solve the emotions of the father, and come back and show for the child that she's important, that her feelings are right, that she's she's loved by the parents, and also all of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are 2 different points of view.
Yeah. Can I add something
Yes.
on that? But the thing is that the father was angry. The girl has to go out of the car, and they left. Everybody left. It's not that there was something else going on there. She was dropped out of a car in the middle of nowhere, and her family left her. So how she can now, in that condition, understand, oh, mother is with me, and then they will come back? I think that obviously they will come back, because when the steam goes down, then it not really abandoning you, but you thought like that you were abandoned. And
Yeah, I think most 12-year-olds would.
Yeah, so then it's not possible
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay, let's let the people on Zoom have a chance. We're going to go a little bit over because Babaji's class is not happening tonight. It got canceled. So he's not coming. So it's okay if we just go a little bit over with the discussion.
So Prajakta was first.
Okay. Go ahead, Prajakta.
So the girl, she needs her mother's attention and love at this moment. So if the mother tries to go and calm down her father's anger, that means the mother is giving more importance to the father's feeling and not what the girl needs right now.
Yes.
So she should stand down and be with the daughter and take care of the daughter, understand, comfort her, give her some little water or just, hug, and not go with father, because that will instinct other negative feelings that my mother is giving priority to my father rather than me being left alone here.
Very good. Excellent. So that's what attunement is. The mother should be attuned to the daughter, especially, remember that's what the slides were that I presented this week and last week, so you understood what I was saying. That's exactly it. The mother should be taking care of the daughter and not leaving her side. Attunement means you're going together, and if somebody comes in between that and the father gets angry, it's not about pacifying the father, because the daughter is going to take it that her feelings are wrong and they're bad, even if it's for 2 minutes. It's not about pacifying the father. The father is not a child, even though he's acting like a child, okay? The father is a full-grown man who needs to learn how to control his anger. It's not the mom's job to pacify him and calm him down while the daughter's sitting there freaking out and terrified. It's going to send a very bad message to her about herself. And that's what I'm saying. Your development of your sense of self is based on your mother's ability to attune to you, especially when you're scared. Especially, that has to be very highlighted, you know? So she has to come with you, and it would be very good for her to hear the mother say to the father, that's not okay to talk to her like that. You can't kick her out of the car. She's part of our family. Something like that. So she understands, oh, okay. And then the mother can say, it's not good to pull your sister's hair. We have to talk about that. Let's process that. But we're not going to leave you on the side of the road. We're not going to kick you out. You know, I'm sorry that your father got so angry. And then if the father gets angry at the mother, at least it's two adults. The mother can say, okay, you can be angry at me, but I'm taking care of our daughter right now. Okay? So let's give Tanmay a chance. He wanted to say something before he runs away. Tanmay, what do you have to say?
Somebody at the door. There's somebody at the door, but I'll just quickly give my 2 cents.
Okay.
But I was thinking that if I was the 12-year-old, I would think, well, what happens if the mother is not able to convince the dad?
Yeah.
That means I'm going to be left on the side, which means that her fate depends on whether the mother has the ability to protect her, whether in this situation or any other future situation.
Yeah.
So if there's an abuser and she doesn't have protection, she's so vulnerable.
Yes.
If I were in her position, I would basically run away from the house.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's
there's no guarantee of protection in the future.
That's right. That's very good. There's no guarantee, right? And when you're 12, your personality is still getting formed. So all those things are very significant, what mom decides to do in these kind of situations. If mom decides to, go with dad, you're never going to forget that. That's why, I'm 51 years old and I'm writing this story of what happened when I'm 12. Why would I do that? Because it was so painful. Even if the mother said, dad is really angry right now, but I see that you are scared and I'm not going to leave you. I am with you, and your dad is angry, that's his issue, and I'm really sorry, but I'm here with you. I'm not going to leave you. It's us two together. Something like that. Narottam? Did anybody else want to say something? Okay. Sorry. You want to ask your question? I have a question. Okay.
What about the other girl? Because she may also be somehow traumatized by the whole event, because now we're speaking about you.
Yeah.
Or about the father, but we forgot the other one.
We didn't forget the other one. That's a different exercise. So this is what I'm saying, is that you're not attuning, that's when you start thinking about someone else, because actually that happens very often, is that when I say, let's focus on you, then you want to focus on your mother, your father, the other person, instead of being like, let's go deeper into the very painful feelings of this little girl. It's painful to do, and we're trained not to do it. So our mind does that, Kamala.
I want to just to add on the picture, when you are standing there in the middle of the road and somehow suddenly all your reality has changed. You're not anymore protected with the father, mother and sister going to vacation. Now you're in the middle of the road and everything can be like a big danger for you.
Yeah.
So you must be very, 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 very scared about everything and not able to take any decision and what is the next. So being in this uncertain situation suddenly, I think must be very, very scary and very, how to say,
it feels out of control, desperate,
Yeah, desperate.
But if the mother was there and had attuned, I probably wouldn't feel scared because she would be confident, stable, secure in herself and saying, here's how it is, you've got me, and Dad's acting crazy right now, and that's not okay, you know?
Yeah. And then a lorry driver is coming, and then this and that, and everybody can...
You'll read the rest of the story, you know, what happened, but okay. So, okay, Krishna.
Yeah, I have two situations here. One is like I didn't project initially as a compassionate mother, but as a compassionate father, even if the situation is involving the father, because I cannot see myself as a mother talking that way. So, but it's like this. Like for me, anger is an influence, and one get anger, the other get.
Talk about a compassionate mother or nothing.
Yes. So
be the compassionate mother.
Yes. So from
what
that,
would you say?
What I will do is a disruptive action, which means change the game. Because one get angry, the other get angry, and then everybody gets angry. So what I will do is just like stop the car when I hear this Jesse get out, and I say, no, Jesse get out, I get out, and everybody will get out, and we will go walk. So then everybody get like crazy, you know?
Good.
What? They say, okay, so you are Jesse, I am Jesse, and everybody here is Jesse, so we need to talk.
Good,
okay?
Very good.
Like
good job.
Some disruptive action, you know?
Good job. That's very creative and very strong. You see how confident the mother is? It's not about if the father, I'm scared of the father, you know?
But I want to add that 100% I will not by any means disauthorize anyone there like an authority, because if I fight with the father in that way, there is another second message there. So I will not doing like that, but doing this disruptive like action for make everyone understand that we are all like we are passing for something together, and include myself.
But sometimes it turns into a fight if you're sticking up for your child, and that's okay. Not fight for the sake of fight, but fight so your child knows that their feelings matter and you're going to protect them. That's different. In other words, the disruptive action could actually turn into a fight because the fathers might just be like, you know, they might, and you just say, I don't, you know, however you feel is how you feel. I'm not discussing it with you. I'm getting out with the kids. You're being really inappropriate and you're scaring them. You know, so sometimes you have to be willing to fight to protect. If you're attuned to your kid and they're scared, you fight for that. You know, even the most docile mother, you know, if they're attuned in that way, they will fight for that, not for the sake of fighting, but for standing up for the kid. In other words, they're not trying to fight, but if the father gets angry back.
And in that sense, I have a question. So in this situation, they will not create some like problem in the structure of the family where both parents sometimes, both have to give instructions. So if both parents fight each other in front of them or disauthorize the other in front of them, there is also a message in the sense like who have power, and then childs can also understand this for manipulation in the future. Like, okay, my mom have more power than my dad, so then I will come to her because last time she was telling this to dad when he told me, and maybe like create like groups inside the main family or something like that is my question. Something.
It could be like that, but you know that's a loaded question. I mean, the main point is for this discussion is that you stand up for your kid as the mother to the father. What other things happen? You know, I can't say because there's a lot to that. You know, but the main point is the child needs to feel that the mother is protecting them, and if it's a fight, it's a fight. You know, it can play out in many other ways, and that's true. All that stuff could happen, but that could be a whole book. All right, I'm going to answer Bhadra and then we're going to go because I know we're going over and I don't want to keep you guys. Everybody looks tired. The action-packed hour here. Okay, Bhadra, yes.
Yes, Yoshika. Thank you for your class today. Now, I just wanted to rescue the action that Dr. I don't remember his name, but he said last week, which I think it's a conciliation of everything. He said to stop the car, put your sister at the front seat, and then the mother goes in behind with you, and then she attunes with you when everybody is going like still in the car. In that way, you feel that your mother is still attuned with you because she is with you, trying to protect you and processing your feelings. And at the same time, the kind of authority of the father is still there, I think. So I think that was a very good solution.
Yeah, Dr. Johnny said that. So you're saying the compassionate mother would tell the father that we're going to do the different seating arrangement? How would that go when the father, this part of the story is different than the other part?
Okay,
so this part of the story, this part of the story, when you were fighting with your sister, and then your father says, okay, stop Jessie, and she stopped the car, he stopped the car, at that moment, I as a mother would say, okay, no, we stop the car just to change seats, because there is something wrong here, and we have to address this. Okay, so you'd be more assertive. You would propose that solution and hope that the dad is calm enough that he can hear it and digest that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think for me that was a very sweet and creative solution.
Yeah,
I think
that was. Okay, Vilas, one last thing, and then we're going to wrap up.
So what I would be curious about your opinion about the solution we just heard from Sri Krishna Das, that to say, okay, we all go out of the car. I was curious, tying it back to what you said at the beginning of the class about the ahankara, would this solution be interesting because it could pacify also the ahankara of the father, because what he said, still everyone is doing? Could this be an interesting aspect of his solution?
Because what he said, everybody's doing, what do you mean?
He said, Jessie, go out.
Yeah.
So Jessie goes out and everyone else also goes out. That's what you said, right? And then everyone else goes for a walk and, maybe grab a sandwich, whatever, and process what's going on right now in the family or this jealousy situation. And I would be curious if you could say, how would this affect, how would he feel this with his ahankara compared to other solutions that we heard here?
So his ahankara, right? Remember, ahankara, one of the characteristics is we're always right.
Yeah.
And he's the father, he's probably an authority, he's like, so what he wants is Jessie, go out. And everybody says, yes, master. So anything that doesn't match that, he's going to have an issue with. Because he's already pissed off, and now you're not listening to him. And he thinks he's right. So I think he'd be very angry about that. He'd be like, you're not listening to me. What the hell? I said, get out. Anything that she says that's not agreeing with that, he's going to get more angry. It's not less angry, Like the best thing, his best ahankara food, which I'm not saying she should say. It's the opposite of what she should say. But if you just want to understand his ahankara is, you're right. Get the hell out, you horrible kid. You were such a good father. You're right. She's a horrible child. Get out. Drive faster away. Right? That's what I'm saying. Ahankara is we think we're always right. I mean, my dad's not alive now, but I wonder if I asked him the story, he'd probably be like, you deserved it. That's what I'm saying about ahankara. He thinks he's right, and I deserved it. And she was a good wife, actually, because she didn't, she was attuned to him, not me. Okay? So good job, you guys. Thank you for hanging in there and staying late and hearing all the bombs that I dropped today. I appreciate it. I hope you can digest it over the week. And next week we'll have our last class. Okay? Haribol.